Hi, I'm Johnny from UltimatePaperMache.com, and I did my experiment to see if we could make some paper mache feathers. Check those out. Is that nice? Haven't painted them yet, but they're really strong. They're just a wire on the inside, some tape on both sides of the wire, just totally enclosing it, and then one layer of paper mache, just a strip of paper, one strip of paper glued onto it so that you have a nice surface for painting. You can paint it any way you want to, any shape you want to. I actually did 2 experiments yesterday to see if this would work. 2 different products. It's, like I said, it's tape over wire. And this one was the one I thought would work best. It's an aluminum tape, and it turned out, not only was it really expensive, I would never run out and buy aluminum tape just for this. I just happened to have some in the studio. It turned out it's a little bit too thick. The edges can be seen, and so it would be really hard to paint the edges. This one, don't go out and buy aluminum tape. It didn't work. This one is just masking tape underneath the paper mache, and this one worked really, really well. So you're going to see me waving that aluminum tape. This is what it looks like. It's going to be in the video. Don't buy this. Buy a masking tape instead. And no, you don't need to buy the expensive green stuff. I just happen to have that left over from a remodeling project. So just get the regular kind of masking tape. You can get it, I think, up to 2 inches wide. It can go as long as your wire is. So if you want really, really long feathers, this would work really well because it's really strong and they'll hold up. And it's got the stem, I don't know what that's called. I was going to look it up, but I can't remember. I forgot to. But it's got this so that you can stick it on just about anything. So let me show you how this was done. It was really easy. The first thing you need is a thin bendable wire. For one feather, I used an aluminum armature wire that I had in the studio, and I used a plain old tie wire for the other one, just some cheap wire that I had in the garage. Any wire will work, but if it can rust, like the tie wire does, you'll need to cover the exposed wire down at the bottom with masking tape before adding any paper mache. Now you want to pull out some tape. In this case, I'm using the aluminum tape first. And remember, you don't want to buy this stuff. The masking tape definitely worked better. But that's what I started with. So I put the sticky side up on my table. Then I lay the wire on top of it. Some feathers have the shaft of the feather closer to one edge. You want to pay attention to that when you're putting the wire on the tape. Then you want to fold the tape back over so that the sticky sides will stick together. Don't cover the wire down at the bottom, of course. That's the quill, I think it's called. You want to have that for your handle, and well, just because feathers have those. You want to smooth the tape down really well with your finger or use any kind of tool so that you can see the shape of the wire. That helps it look like a feather. Now, you can see me here using the masking tape instead of the aluminum tape. It was way easier. The tie wire, which is what I'm using with the masking tape, it isn't as easy to smooth out as the armature wire is, but it still works. So you don't have to buy expensive wire for this. You do need to be really careful to not poke a hole in the tape at the top end, which I did, but actually the paper mache covered that little hole anyway, so it really didn't make any difference. Now again, you want to smooth that tape down really flat so that you can see the wire shape through it. I thought that the aluminum tape would make it easier to get the wire shaft to show up really nicely on the finished feather, but it actually worked really well with the masking tape. In fact, I think it may have worked even a little bit better. Now, once we get done with this, we're ready to start with the paper mache, and to begin with that, you want to put some plastic down on your table. I know flour and water paste wouldn't work with the aluminum tape. It might work with the masking tape. I don't know, because I started out with wood glue, actually. Aluminum, well, just most things won't stick to it. Even with the expensive glue, though, it didn't work as well as I wanted it to. Since I had the wood glue out, I went ahead and used it for both feathers. But even, like I said, even with the expensive glue, the paper didn't stick to the aluminum foil as well as I wanted it to. You can also see here that the paper wrinkled over the aluminum tape, but it didn't over the masking tape. And the wrinkles go in the wrong direction for a feather. They go just plain sideways instead of at an angle. So that really messed things up. It did not do that to the masking tape feather. The wood glue does dry really fast. That's one benefit to it, and so I don't mind the fact that I used a little bit for my masking tape feather. It did dry really quickly. I just poked some holes in a small cardboard box. I set the shafts down into the holes, and that way air could get to both sides of the feathers and dry them out evenly. I did have some other projects, so I left them overnight, but I don't think I really had to. When they were totally dry, the aluminum tape feather still had wrinkles, but the masking tape didn't. Now the next thing you want to do is find a photo or a real feather and use it as a model to draw the outside shape of your feather, and just cut it out. A lot of feathers have breaks between some of the barbs, and you can cut those out too, like I did. If you need to bend it sideways and you didn't bend the wire to start out sideways, you'll also need to make some cuts in the main part of the feather. I decided to leave mine straight, so I didn't do that. I think it would be easier just to curve the wire when you put it on the tape instead of cutting it later, but that would be up to you. You can try it both ways. The other thing that I cut on mine was the little frilly part down at the very bottom of the feather, because you see that on a lot of feathers where they're kind of downy like. It worked well on the masking tape. It didn't work at all on the aluminum tape one because the glue did not stick the paper down well enough. You ended up with little strips of just plain aluminum tape sticking out, and I don't think you could paint those. I really thought that the feather made with the aluminum tape would be better, but I was really disappointed with it, mostly because it was too thick. Now, as you can see on this one, this is the one made out of the masking tape. Right on the edge, it's like paper thin. It feels like a feather. The aluminum tape, it was just too thick. You can see it here. You can see the edge. You can see the tape even on the edge. But this one is, with the masking tape, it really comes out nice. Once this is painted, it would look very much like a real feather. So this worked really well. It was a really successful experiment, even though it didn't turn out the way I expected it to. So live and learn. This was really fun. Now, if you're interested in making a bird that has most of its feathers actually attached, flat against the bird's skin, but it just has some feathers that stick out, like a chicken has most of its feathers rather flat, and then it has some feathers on its tail that stick up separately, then you would use this for the separate ones, and you could sculpt all the rest of the feathers right on the bulk of the bird with your paper mache clay. And I have a video that shows you how to do that. It's for the snowy owl that I made. This is what she ended up looking like, and it works really well. So that version of sculpting feathers combined with this one just for the tail feathers or maybe the wing feathers would just make a gorgeous sculpture. If you make one, please come back to my website, ultimatepapermache.com, and show it off on the Daily Sculptors page. We would all really love to see it. In fact, you can show off anything that you make, and so come on back and visit me, ultimatepapermache.com. I'll see you there.